Hello everybody, welcome to the HTML5 course. In this video, I'm going to set up a simple web page by utilizing many of the commonly used elements on the web page. So a typical web page would start with this statement. Okay, the very first line of code on top of the text file that represents the HTML file is this one. It simply tells the web browser to notice that you are going to set up a web page. So the browser has to interpret the following elements correctly. And then we can go to the setup of the HTML file. How can we do that? We can make use of the HTML element tag. Okay, when I simply type the first part of the HTML tag, I'm able to get the second part of the HTML tag. So the first part here is known as the opening tag of the HTML element, and that part with / inside is known as the closing tag corresponding to the HTML element. So we can put the two tags into two lines. So in between the two tags, which is the opening one and the closing one, I can type something like this. Here I would like to add a line of comment that is not processed by the web browser. So when I want to set up a certain comment, I really need to start with this pattern, which is an opening angle bracket followed by an exclamation mark and then followed by two hyphens. And if I want to close the comment, I need to do so by including two hyphens followed by one closing angle bracket. So this is the comment that will not be processed by the web browser. So I can simply type some information about the teaching or some information about the design of the web page in the form of a comment. So let me get some more comments. So this part is known as the opening tag, and for the next part, it is known as the closing tag. We have to notice that a / is present inside the closing tag. And inside the HTML element, we can set up our own web page by including the head of our web page. How can we do that? We can do something like this. What does it mean by the head? It is something about the title of the web page. So we can see something on the live preview window later. We can add the title of the web page. So when we see that I type this line of code, I will see the title being changed in the live preview window automatically. So the title tag is simply talking about the thing present in the tab on your browser. So we can say that the title is something that is shown on the web page tab. Okay, you could see that we can get some kind of red lines of code. The reason is that if the opening text and closing text are not matched correctly, the code would turn red. For example, we have to make sure that the HTML tags are at the very first and the very last section of your HTML file. If I do so, I can make the web page very safely. But if we do something like this, we will see the red lines again. If I remove this closing tag for the head part, we can see that the head element cannot be closed correctly because the head part should have nothing like the closing tag for the HTML element. So if the nesting of the elements fails, the text will turn red. Okay, so the red lines of code indicate that our nesting fails. So let me change back to the correct way of the nesting. Okay, so I can set up the title shown on the web page tab, and then I can add some more information about the web page. We are going to do so by using the meta element. Now we can set up the character set for the particular web page. And for my example, I will set it as UTF-8, which is a kind of character encoding mechanism. And we can see that I have / before the closing angle bracket. What does it mean by that? It shows that this meta element is an empty element or a self-closing element. What does it mean by an empty element or a self-closing element? When we talk about the title element, we have to include both the opening tag and the closing tag. But for some kinds of elements like the meta element, we don't need the explicit closing tag. Instead, we simply have the beginning tag, and then we can have nothing behind the such tag. Okay. So if we want to have a kind of empty element, we can simply close the element with a closing angle bracket. And this / is optional. But for me, I would suggest you to include the / before we do the closing of the empty element. I can add one more information about the web page. Name equals keywords. Content equals HTML. So we can see that something is on the left-hand side of the equal sign and something is on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So the thing on the left-hand side can be regarded as the attribute for the particular element. The thing on the right-hand side of the equal sign is the value corresponding to that particular attribute. So we now have 3 attribute value pairs for the meta tag. Okay, I can add something more. Okay, what does it mean by that? I would like the search engine to understand that my web page is going to provide some HTML guide to the reader of the web page. So the keywords attribute is something about the content of your web page that is going to be shown on the search engine. And this is the description of the particular content of your web page. So all these kinds of things are going to make sure that the search engine is able to understand or interpret your information of the web page. Okay, so this explains the purpose of having the meta tag or empty element. I can add one more meta tag. I'd like to add something about the author. So the search engine is able to understand the author of the web page. So we can say that the author is simply equal to John Smith. So John Smith is going to set up this particular web page. So we can see that for these kinds of values for the name attribute, we can add the content pertaining to the values shown before the content attribute value pair. Okay. So we can already set up the head of your web page. So the only thing that can be shown on the web page is simply the title part, which is simply the content shown on the web page tag. And for the meta elements, they are not shown on the web page. They are just for the search engines to understand your contents of your web page. So after setting the head, I can start my real setup of the web page. Okay, the content is enclosed by a pair of tags called body. Okay, now for the body, I can have something like this. Usually we would start with some headings. So here H means heading. So for headings, we can have 6 levels of headings. H1 up to H6. We are going to show all of them in a minute. So what is a heading? I can give you more description of it. Okay, when I set up the heading, I'm able to see that the text is shown here with this particular font size. Okay, the heading is simply shown here, and we can say something about the heading. A heading is a block element. What does it mean by a block element? It simply shows that we have to treat the whole element as one entity. So the whole element is enclosed by the 2 tags, which is the opening tag and the closing tag. The opening tag is simply H1 and the closing tag is simply /H1. In addition to it, we can say the purpose of having a heading. It helps us to understand the structure of our web page. Okay, after setting up the heading, I'm able to do something else. I would like to set up a paragraph on the web page. How can I do that? I can use the paragraph tag. So P means a paragraph. And what does it mean by a paragraph? It simply means some content shown on the web page. I can show you an example. Okay, I can see that the paragraph is something like this. I show you the different headings for HTML. And this is the thing that is under the heading. So we can set your description of your things on the web page by using the paragraph tag. And you can see that I always include indentation. The purpose of indentation is to help us understand the nesting of the text more properly. And we have to notice that the indentation is an optional approach to writing the HTML code. The web browser doesn't recognize the indentation, so we can ignore all the indentation, but it will be very difficult for the web developers to follow your code. So it is always suggested to include indentation in your code. Now we can say that the paragraph is something like this. If we want to change the contents shown on the paragraph, we can do something like this to have some variation of the visual result. Okay, we see that the word different is turned to another font format, and also the HTML word is also changed to another font format. So what does it mean by here? EM is going to tell you the emphasis meaning of the word. So if we want to emphasize the word shown here, we can use the EM text to enclose the word that you are going to emphasize. And how about the tag strong? When we use the strong tag to enclose a word or a number of words, we can see that the font format has changed to another version, which is bold in this case. So strong here means we need even stronger emphasis for the word to be shown inside the strong text. Okay, so we can see that the text M and strong are inside the paragraph text. So we can say that the two texts are known as the inline elements. What does it mean by inline elements? These are the elements that are included inside a given element. Okay, so we can see that the two inline elements are contained in the paragraph elements. Okay. So after setting up this paragraph, I can do something like this. I want to give a line break by using the BR tag. And a line break is simply another example of the empty element, which is this one. So we simply don't need the closing tag. We just need the closing angle bracket together with the forward slash to indicate the line break element. We will see the effect of the line break later. Okay, if you want to set up a horizontal line across the web page, we can do something like this. We use the HR empty element. The long form of HR is horizontal rule, which is this line. Okay. We can see that a line break is simply giving me one new line just after the paragraph. If I ignore the line break, we will see that the horizontal rule will be put topper than the previous version with the line break being included. If I include the line break again, we can see that one more line will be given, which is an empty line just before I put the horizontal rule. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the 6 levels of heading. We have H1 up to H6. I can simply do the copy and paste action, and I change the text to other numbers. Okay, I can change the contents of all the headings together. Let me press the alternate key, and then I drag all the lines. And then I change the numbers. When I refresh the page, I can see the font size corresponding to each of the headings. Okay. So we can see that number would indicate the size of the heading. A smaller number would indicate a larger heading font in general. Is it possible for us to have heading 7 with an even smaller font? Let me see. Okay, when I do so, with H7 being included as the so-called tag for my heading, I can see that the font doesn't change as I wish. It shows me that H7 is an invalid tag. So in this case, the web browser would simply ignore the nonsensical or invalid tag. So in this case, the content, which is heading 7, would simply be treated as the general content inside the body element. So we will see that heading 7 is having the same font as the paragraph component shown here. Okay. So we can see that there is no heading 7. Now I would like to show you more elements. I would like to show you an inline code. What does it mean by that? We can see in an example. Now I want to set up a new paragraph. And inside the paragraph, I would like to set up my quote. Okay, when I run the web page, I can see that the thing contained inside the Q text are enclosed by a pair of double quotation marks. Okay, so this Q is simply telling that I want to include an inline quote. Okay, and we can put the full stop outside the quote and before the closing tag of the paragraph. It is always valid to do so. So Q means the inline quote. And we can see that Q is another example of the inline element. Okay. Now I want to show you an example of a block quote, which is different from the inline quote. When I want to set up a quote, I simply use block quote elements. So what will we get with the block quote? We can see that the whole thing contained in the block quote will be indented on the web page. So it is a way to show that we cite someone's remarks. So we can see that the block quote is a bit different from the inline quote. An inline quote is done inside another element. So that is one of the examples of an inline element. But for block quote, it is an example of a block element as opposed to the inline elements. Okay. Now I want to show you a hyperlink that is helping you to connect to another website. If I want to set up a hyperlink to this particular website, I can simply use the anchor element. So A here means an anchor. An anchor helps us to go to another place or link to another element that is not contained in the particular HTML file that we are focusing on. Let me continue the anchor text first. Okay, an anchor element is a block element. We have to close the thing with the small letter A together with the forward slash as the ending tag. Okay. So A here means an anchor. And how about href? Href means hypertext reference. And again, we can see that href is the attribute value, and the particular website followed by the attribute is the value corresponding to this attribute. Okay, so we have an attribute value pair shown here. And we have another attribute value pair indicated by target equals underscore blank. What does it mean by that? It simply tells the browser to set up a new web page on the tab part of your browser. So let me do it. So I have a hyperlink here, and the hyperlink would have the content shown between the anchor text. When I click on it, I'm able to see that another tab will be opened for me due to the underscore blank value corresponding to the target attribute. Okay. If I ignore the target attribute and the underscore blank value, we will have another effect. When I click on it, I will simply go to the new web page on the same tab instead of opening another web page tab for me. So let me add the attribute value pair back. Let me save the HTML file first, and then I refresh the web page. Okay, the situation is returned to the original one. Okay, now I want to show you how to pack an image into the web page. I can use the img element like this. So here I've used the img element, and I have to include the particular file to be put on the web page. So we can see that the lake.jpg file is already included in my file tree of the HTML5 file. So here on the same file tree, I have the JPEG image together with the HTML file that I'm editing now. And here alt means the alternate attribute, and the value for this alternate attribute is lake picture. What does it mean by that? If your browser is not able to show the image for some unexpected reason, this content, lake picture, which is a text, will be shown on the web page instead. In addition to handling the situation of the loading failure of the image, it is also possible for the text-to-speech features of some websites to simply let the visually impaired people understand the picture content. So it is possible that some text-to-speech features can pronounce like picture to the website user, so that he or she is still able to understand the content of your image. Okay. So let me say here. Okay, the alternate attribute can let the search engine know the topic of your image, and it can also be used to the text-to-speech features of some web sites. So let me run it, save it first, and reload the page. Okay, we can see the picture is already included in the web page shown here. And if the picture is not able to be loaded for some reason, the text, which is like picture, will be shown here instead of loading the check file. Okay. If I want to delete something explicitly on the web page, I can use the del element, which is the one shown here. I can see that the content inside the opening link tag and the closing tag for the del element will be having a horizontal line across the whole text content. So it simply tells the browser to add a horizontal line to indicate the deletion of something that you don't think it is important. If you want to show the deletion more clearly, I can add more line breaks. Okay, the deletion is more clearly shown by adding more line breaks so that you can see the effect more clearly. So in this video, you have already learned a lot of features that you can put on a web page. For example, the headings, together with the inline elements that help you change the appearance of the contents on the web page. You're also able to add up a hyperlink, which links to another web page. You're also able to add a new image to the web page. You are also able to do the inline code together with the block code. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, please leave your questions on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.